What's up, gentlemen? Welcome to the Splitting Hairs podcast. This is Friday Night Football, joined by a special guest tonight, Zach Heins. Zach, thanks for joining us and our ragtag crew. Before we dive into it, got to shout out our title sponsor for the pod, the Wild Hair of Brookings, South Dakota. They run weekly specials, happy hour every day, 3 to 7, all day happy hour on Sundays and Tuesdays. $3 Wild Islands on Thursdays, Fireball Fridays, they're $3. That's today. $1 tequila shots, Friday only. Again, that's today. $4 double wells on Wednesdays and Fridays. Another Friday special there. Game day specials on Saturday are $10 buckets of domestics, $22 buckets of seltzers, only during the Jacks game. So that would be like for Stack. And then they show all Jacks football games, but we know you're going to be at the Dana, rocking and making that place rowdy, and then heading to the Wild Hair after or before, whatever wets your whistle, but make sure you stay responsibly wild. Shout out to them for the sponsorship. Gentlemen, game week is finally here. There's been a lot of hype around this one surrounding Sac State and all their, different, talking points and their bulletin board material and all that. What are we feeling going into this one?
I think it's always fun to see, start off the season against I love playing like non-conference opponents. And I know, Zach and Brian can attest to this because at least inside, it's not the same. You know what I mean? So especially for a first game and for these guys, a lot of the pressure's on the Jacks, obviously, and it's on Sac State too, to prove what you got. And I think coming out first game and you got to play Missouri Valley football, obviously the lines are looking a little bit different, but that mentality and the plays that we're going to run, bro, I don't think that these West Coast cats are ready for that off rip. No, I don't believe that.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. I think, first year head coach for both teams. It's definitely nice to have this one at home to get everyone, with the home environment first, and, new quarterback, new faces on both sides. So I'm excited to see the boys out there.
I'm just glad, we have a varsity mindset. So outside of that,
Yeah, and for those who live under a rock and haven't heard what Brian's referencing here, the actual president of Sacramento State University tabbed the whole FCS subdivision as JV football in their failed attempt to try to make it FBS. I think they got UC Davis envy because they are not UC Davis, and the reality is UC Davis, from a financial perspective, is more well-equipped and in line to get a nod to go up to the ranks of FBS, and I think that that's disappointed them to some degree. And I think, unfortunately, before I give them their due, they sold a lot of the players and a lot of the talent they got a false bill of goods. Now, there's nothing wrong with ambitious, dreams. But it's looking like they're now going to try to move their development project for their stadium off-site, away from the campus. That's going to be cost prohibitive. It kind of looks like they're trying to do it at that makeshift horse track. A lot of moving pieces there for them, but just kind of an intriguing story to watch unfold, and really kind of curious as to why they have animosity towards the FCS when in reality they really haven't done a whole lot at the FCS level to begin with. But Brian and Stack, or at least Stack and Zach, Stack and Zach, you guys have played against Sac State. I think people are calling it Sacramento State, right?
Sacramento. We coined that in 2021 when I made them my sons before the game even started. That I own territory out there. That's what I used to tell guys. Bro, I own property out there, right? That whole – they were really hype on themselves back in the day when they got that playoff berth, and I think they were a top 8 seed, if I'm not wrong, Zach. Were they that?
Yeah.
They're a top 8 seed and kind of feeling themselves and feeling like they're going to ride this on to the national championship.
They were top 2 seed.
And bro, and obviously the game got a little bit close at the end, but as a squad, we really came in there and oh God, these dudes actually don't know what we're doing. In terms of run game, in terms of the white athletes we had, shout out Zach, shout out the Yankees. But I'm I don't know. I just feel like on the West Coast, in terms of FCS, it's not the same.
Yeah. Well, first, I feel bad that you have property out there in California because the taxes are ridiculous. But yeah, lot of moving pieces that they've got in terms of assembling their roster. And can you mute yourself, Stack? You got a lot of feedback. Somebody's got feedback. There we go. They've got a lot of intrigue around their offense, right? They're bringing a lot of new creative formations and stuff like that with the Go-Go, but it's going to be interesting to see, let's start it off with the offense. What do we think, Zach, from your perspective, is this new look Jack's offense with a lot of the old pieces that I'm sure you're familiar with Coach E being back? What do you think you can expect from the guys? You're closest to it probably in terms of graduating, you and Brian.
Yeah, so actually I'm old enough that I was up at SDSU with Coach Heins for my first year. He was still there. And so it's going to be a lot of the same offense. We're going to want to do a lot of the same things. And he had the offenses of the Taryn Christians and the Dallas Goddards and the Jake Winnicke's of the world. So obviously with, talent like that, they pass the ball all over the yard. And we were watching film of that. We were doing everything like that. And to see how much they passed it. So I think Coach Heins, I believe he might have been there when Zenner was there, obviously still had a good running game. So it's exciting. I was able to make it to a few spring practices. I think I was up there for 2 or 3 of them just to, see the guys learning the new terminology that he brought in and everything like that. So honestly, I'm expecting I'm expecting big things from Chase. He's got all the talent in the world. I think Coach Heins can, get the best out of him. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be interesting. It should be interesting to see what formations and packages they utilize coming out right out the gate, especially because I think, we talked on the pod last week. This is the deepest, probably all top to bottom receiving core that we've had in a while. And like you said, Coach E has familiarity with passing to set up the run and running. So there's definitely going to be a lot of options on the table in terms of how they want to attack and approach what is still an odd front at Sacramento State. Zach, do you want to clue the people in on, how we've approached an odd front in the past, whether it be like a Missouri State with, 3 down linemen, how we kind of attacked and built a scheme around trying to establish run or pass game there?
Yeah, so it kind of depends with a 3 down front. So it's a little bit non-traditional of a front. And so different coaches will have different game plans for it. So you can either go of the mindset of, since their defense is so different, we're just going to dumb everything down, get things basic, and get a hat on hat. Whether that just be saying, hey, we're going to run inside zone, outside zone, run base plays, or, different teams will run different formations and coverages in the back end, whether that be, rolling people down, rolling people away. I'm not exactly sure what Sac State's going to come out in terms of coverages, but I know that a lot of the offensive coordinators that I had in my time, it was a lot of, if they want to get, start playing games up front, they want to do a lot of that and leave, opportunities in the back end. We'll take advantage of that and throw the ball all over the yard.
Yeah. From what I've learned from guys like Coach Stig, who's obviously, kind of a defense mastermind there, he always was talking about moving the bubble. So when you have an odd front, you just move the bubble. And I always like that perspective more in terms of getting your numbers, right? Numbers advantage, whether it's, shifting and motioning a tight end, or whether it's lining up in shifting overall to a formation that gives you a number advantage, or checking to it. I really like that approach because it doesn't change what you're doing based on what the defense is doing. It's still kind of trying to dictate the tempo. And then Coach Meadows, who is on the same staff as Coach E, I think that he was the one who said, what I like to do with a 3-4? I like to run right at it. And I think that kind of carried over too with Coach Eck. Although sometimes he had an allergy to continuing to run the football when it's working, but we still love him for it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I love tight ends, obviously, but I'm extremely biased. I know you are as well. But maybe talk to a little bit about the difficulties getting tight ends open against an odd front.
This is kind of a side note. I was there in the spring practice, like I had mentioned, and The tight end room was about what it is. I think most of the time I was there, we had anywhere from 6 to 8 guys usually in the tight end room. I looked at the roster today. We have 12 tight ends. So they will be using them in full force and having different bodies and getting different people open. And depending on where they're going to line up. So with an odd front, a lot of the times the defensive end on even front will be inside of you. So as a tight end, it's very easy just to, be able to get open. Like there's no difficulty releasing, a lot of the times that's how a lot of routes are predicated. It's just off the base, even defense. And so when you get an odd front, you can end up with, either the Sam or the Will walking down, jamming you. They could be rushing the passer. They could be playing you in man coverage. They could just hit you, drop into a quick zone. So as a tight end, that's just something you got to kind of keep your head on a swivel for. And, the guys who have game experience, they'll know what to do there.
Yeah. It looks like they are running a 3-4, according to their defensive coordinator, and they will try to come at them with some exotic looks, but eventually just get back to what their man looks are. So they'll probably try to heat up a new quarterback. Why wouldn't you? I would think that 3-4 defenses, they want to try to manufacture some pressure. They do have some big bodies up front across the defensive line. Deshaun Watts, number 59, he goes 6'2", 318. So not quite as big of a man as Brian was, but, he's trying. Xavier Williams, number 45.
Welcome to college football for the freshman, though, center.
True. Welcome to college football for Shane Willingbring. That's for sure. They say he's real cerebral, though, so it's chess, not checkers. We'll see how that goes for him. Miles Bailey goes 6'4", 286, and then Xavier Williams, number 45, goes 6'4", 246. So got some bodies in there. I guarantee they're going to try to throw some looks at them that are a little bit unconventional to, again, stress the freshmen on the offensive line and the newer pieces that we've got. Shout out to Kenyon Big Bow. Shout out to Nate Adams. They're taking reps across the line. So we definitely have different options. And then, of course, we have Q on the edge at left tackle, right tackle. We have Sam Hagan or vice versa. Might have gotten that inverted. But, it's going to be interesting to see how the guys decide to attack them, given most of our running back production went elsewhere, right? Either graduated, is playing in the league, or decided to try their hand in the modified Pac-12 now. When you look at who's going to get the bulk of the work, obviously Julius Lothbridge from the Patriot League coming from Fordham. He's been the guy. Zach, what did you see in spring ball? Anything jump out to you about his work?
To be honest with you, when I was up there, I was looking at a lot of the tight ends. Like that's, all the running backs, and, it was 7-on-7. And I went up there with Garrett Greenfield, and he was watching the Hogs work, and I was just glued to everything that the tight ends were having doing. And, being able to see kind of what nuances they're having them do, or, what Coach Benedetto wants to do with a new tight end room, and kind of taking his brain a little bit, when there was a chance to. So I may not have been the most observant of the other position groups as I could have been.
Appreciate the honesty. We can ride that wave here. Ryan Drake brings up a good point here because he's gotten a lot of love in the offseason. Pika is 280 pounds. Obviously, he could be that extension like Q was earlier in his career with some heavy packages. Did you see them utilize different sets? Of course, my favorite personnel package is 14. So did you see any of that stuff going on?
They were using it a little bit, but, spring ball is a lot of – I think I was there for practice 6 or something like that. So they were still – you're building the offense at that point. But when I was there, we always tried to get 05 personnel put in and just 5 tight ends out on the field, get Mike Morgan in the backfield. But Coach Lujan wasn't going for that, so –
yeah, well, and it's actually interesting, too. I don't know if he's going to be able to suit up on Saturday, but Coleman Kuntz coming over from Sac State was a tight end there, really productive tight end as well, and he toted the rock a little bit in short yardage situations. So, obviously, we're bringing a lot of versatility back into the tight end room. David Alpers, was he there when you were there?
Yep, him, Grayton Gannon, Andrew Gustad, I believe, are the 3 that are remaining.
Yeah, well, shoot, you're 45, so you probably know someone on the roster still. So when you look at that unit, who jumps out to you in terms of guys who can make a real impact this season?
When I look at the tight end room, I think it's going to be, again, I can speak more to the people who were there when I was there. So to me, that's Creighton Gannon. Yeah. And I think he's going to be, he's a very smart, very, talented player. And he will be the true tight end that, may not be necessarily the true Y inline blocker. Right. Just might not necessarily be that big. But I think for anything else that they kind of want to do, my bet would be that he's going to be kind of the first person out of the gate for that. And then, you put a David Alpers in there who's 6'6" and putting on more weight and can, provide more versatility at that Y role, or do you put in Pika who, can obviously still move but is a bigger body and they know more of what to expect from that? Or do you, there's always kind of that cat and mouse game of, especially with 12 tight ends on the roster, you kind of got your pick of this guy can do this guy can do that. But for my money's worth, I would put it on Creighton Gannon being the head honcho there.
And Alpers has so I like that.
Alpers has what?
He's got a little screw loose.
So that's right. That Alpers,
you got to have a little screw loose to play tight end though. Otherwise, you're not doing it right.
That's right. He'll chirp at you stack style. So
I do enjoy watching him. Like for the fans, like if y'all just want to take a look at somebody talking crazy, like if he gets a good block, bro, like he's in people's face on the ground, like doing all of this. Like I think that's one of the funnest parts of football, though. Like if you make a play and let somebody know about it.
That's right. And he switched to number 4 this year, so he's feeling himself a little bit in terms of the threads and the single digits, right? So we love to see it. I think you make a great point with Creighton Gannon. He's got a lot of swivel. He can kind of get open and he moves a little bit better in space, I think, than a true traditional Y, which was a huge benefit when we had you because you could block in line and you could get out on the edge a little bit, which is a huge value add, right? So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Young quarterback in terms of reps played as the starter as it relates to Chase. So I think, a great security blanket is always your tight end. Let's see what happens in terms of how they attack the offense. Guys that are going to carry the shoulder of the load on the ground, it's obviously going to be Loffridge. Then who steps up in that number 2 position, right? Is it going to be James Basinger? We're hearing a lot of his name come out of camp, the freshman from Littleton, Colorado. Brennan Begeman, is he going to tote the rock in short yardage? Obviously the all-time leading rusher in the state of South Dakota. He's really just put his head down and gone to work, right? So that's good. And tackling a big back like that over and over can be, a drain on defenses. So it'll just be fascinating to see. And then a guy that I've always kind of kept a close eye on is Quinn Renfro, who Coach Jackson seems to be pretty excited with his progression coming out of camp. So what do we think in terms of the offensive line being able to establish themselves? I think they're going to mesh well. Do we like the pieces?
I do.
I think that.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, you got it, Brian. You got it.
I was just gonna say the 3-4 is gonna be an interesting dynamic for a freshman center, though. Especially first snaps going to of college football, nerves a little bit, and you got a guy lined up right in front of you. But honestly, I kind of want to see the rotation, though. Whenever I think it was like my first year at SCSU, we kind of rotated a lot there with 6 linemen. So watching Nate Adams, it'll just be interesting to see how they do it series by series, or if it's just different packages. So
yeah, I think 100% they're gonna see what pieces fit best together, because obviously they have guys that they trust enough to roll out there as starters and guys who have played meaningful reps across different teams and throughout the subdivision. So it'll be interesting to see how that complexion kind of takes shape. And then when you look at providing time, are we going to craft plays that get the ball out of Chase's hands quickly? How much do we see Chase tote the rock to start the game? Because, we really don't know what we're going to get in opening games when you got so many new pieces. I'm just going to say, don't be surprised if it's very stagnant early on both sides. Timing's off. Guys are finally getting a chance to hit someone in a different color uniform. I think it could take a little bit for both sides to get going. I don't hope it pans out that way, but just don't be surprised if it does.
That's the thing too, with a brand new game, the playbook's going to be very, very vanilla. It's not going to be like the whole thing. You got to be able to execute on a very high level, and whatever you execute best, that's what you're going to see. It's just going to be a different formation, but it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, I agree, and that's kind of Coach E's MO too. Like, if something's working, he'll flag it. He'll come back to it, maybe out of a different look with maybe a different personnel package. A lot of good things. I'm very confident in the offensive staff, and I like what we have. Big question mark with Chase is just, can he, and this might be a little bit critical from my end, but just, I was the black sheep in my family. I was not a quarterback. Everybody else pretty much was at the FBS level or FCS level. And the mechanics are everything, especially when it's timing. And Chase kind of has that baseball delivery. Are his reads and is his defensive processing going to be quick enough to establish open windows to be able to deliver the ball? Is he accurate enough, regardless of his mechanics, to be able to move the ball down the field, stay on schedule, right? Because Jacks historically have won when they've stayed on schedule and not been behind the chains. And a lot of that is our ability to run the ball on early downs. A lot of question marks, a lot of exciting stuff to see.
I think with in terms of like going against a 3-4 defense this early for like these young guys, I think it's good that it's the first game and you get like a good like 2 weeks to like really decide what we're going to do and what we're going to see there, right? Like, it's not like you have like 3-4 days to prepare, right? And like during a regular game week, like you have a little bit extra time. And for those younger guys too, like you said, we're going to be running the ball at it, right? So like for a center, right, and you got to – this isn't like a personal attack on anyone, but you're getting like a big – like a fatter nose guard, right? Because you got to take up like a truly two-gap it, right? So like you're not going to be dealing with somebody who's really about to do you bogus with like a sauce you up and like all this kind of stuff. Like these guys have seen bull rushes, right? They know how to handle that, right? And like you're gonna get you a double team as a center like every single time, like we'll run the ball. So like I don't think our O-line, especially like age-wise or anything like that, I don't think they're going to be too kind of behind the sticks on what's really going on here with that.
Well, this too, Stack, you can also slide the O-line.
Right.
You can do a half slide or man one side. Like there's different things you can do. I wasn't saying it like in a negative context.
No, yeah, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant it in just like in general.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you look at it again, we're talking about offensive pass sets and sliding the front. But when you look at from a run perspective too, that's why I think it's so pivotal to move the bubble. And I'm curious to see how they do attack it like that. But we got to get the ball, it sounds like, into our playmakers on the edge. Who do we think is going to emerge from that group, that unit, that deep unit?
I mean, Graham Goring's the kind of returner from last year. And then I know, just being from Sioux Falls, like I know we've added a few freshman receivers. Like I know Landon Blaney played at Brandon and was very successful there, and had heard that he had gotten bigger offers and he wanted to stay and, play for SDSU. Very curious to see, what's he doing? What are, I believe we got 2 Nebraska transfers in at receiver. What do those guys look like? What is Lofton? There's just, with that much depth, who's healthy at the end of the camp and who really has stood out at the end of the camp, because it's camp's a very long process. So you can have one good day, but by the end of it, you're going to figure out, and that's just something that, I'm curious to see who's going to end up sticking out, but I'm sure, Graham will probably be leading that charge to a certain degree.
Yeah. Well, I think Graham, in terms of his just command of the offense, haven't been around in terms of being that, I hate this label, but he is kind of more of a possession type receiver. But obviously he could take the top off. You saw it at Oklahoma State. You saw what he did against North Dakota State. Mr. Consistency, just got to stay healthy. Obviously that's everybody's MO, right? They want to stay healthy. But in terms of who's transformed themselves, Lofton Ogroski was kind of already an FCS starter body last year, as we saw. But dude has hit the weight room because the way these, shots of him coming out of camp, and he looks like a senior, mature wide receiver type body. So that's very encouraging to see his commitment to the craft and to try to, take another step up. And given there are transfers in from Nebraska who've played at the FBS level and made hay, you know, you can't rest on any type of laurels just because you started as a freshman, right? So really promising outlook for the wide receiver group. Can we get them the ball? That's going to be the key. I think we should probably shift more now into probably one of the more intriguing points, which is the Go-Go Offense. So I've been doing a little homework on the Go-Go Offense. It kind of derived in terms of name from Brennan Marion when he had spent time out in DC area. It's a very go-go type culture out there. So he's looking for some type of branding and identity he could slap on his offensive philosophy. And really, the Go-Go Offense is just to try to extend the game in terms of quantity of reps the offense is able to take. So how are they going to try to do that? Well, they're going to do that by going fast, right? And making sure that they can go from a 60 play average, which is kind of typical for most offenses, to elevate that to 80. So how are the boys in blue going to be in terms of conditioning? Are they going to be able to get their substitutions in? Is the D-line, the chain gang, going to eat and be able to put pressure on the quarterback so they're not able to build some type of momentum and stay ahead of the sticks? So that's going to be fascinating to watch. The way the offense is set up, it's a lot of two-back looks with a lot of different stacked receiver sets. Again, they're just trying to run the ball out of different unique looks from two backs in the backfield next to the quarterback. The difference being is their mesh points with a lot of window dressing, because essentially it's option football with a guy always trying to take you vertical on the edge, right? So that's what it is in a nutshell, to kind of give the people a better perspective. It's not the Power Rangers that I thought it was early on, just some cheesy Mighty Morphin Power Ranger stuff. Shout out to the Green Ranger fans out there, you know, and mainly the Pink Ranger fans. That's what I was. But yeah, man. So is that too old of a reference for you guys?
No, I also to go back.
No, we all know who Tommy is.
That's right. What are you saying, Brian?
For Tyler Merriam, I think he compared it to the Nebraska triple option, but from a shotgun formation.
That's
like
pretty
that,
much.
It was a light bulb for me. I was like,
yeah.
Oh. So
that's how Brennan Marion kind of described it as well. Didn't say Nebraska, but he went all the way back to essentially early days of running like the triple and the veer. And he looked at a team out of California, De La Salle, had a ton of success running the wishbone. And really, especially when you look at the FCS level, disciplined football with a lot of window dressing, but also stretching the field vertically is a way to go with this offense. So yeah, a little bit. So what do we think in terms of what we need to do to shut down an offense like this?
I think, and obviously this is going to sound biased, but I think a lot of it's going to be on the D-line, right? Like you get TFLs, stops in the backfield, force them to have to pass the ball. Like if you get them in, 3rd and 6+, right? Like for an option play, like that's, and depending on it really depends on how good their offensive line is too, right? Like how they're going to block this up. Like if they're going with those, like I think it was Kennesaw State that did a lot of like just chopping our guys like right at the line of scrimmage, or if they're going to kind of like really try and shovel you out of there. So it depends on what blocking schemes they do. What'd you say?
I said I think they run a lot of power too. They try to run it like, ton of gap scheme and power. It's that's why give me Logan Green money line. Great game.
Okay.
Great game for Logan Green.
Yeah. And we're bringing back a lot of experience. We're bringing back a lot of experience, right? You got Logan Green, you got Wolf Kale. I like to affectionately call him Wolf Cake because it's easy to spell out with autocorrect Wolf Cake. I think he's gonna have opportunities on Saturday, and then really, if they do go different option looks, it's going to be incumbent on the edge to kind of play good disciplined football.
Well, and I'll just go back and add from an offensive perspective, when the defense is going against a team like this where they're trying to increase the snaps and they're trying to tire out the defense by, go, and they are just going up tempo. as an offense, a lot of the times we want to slow the game down, run the ball, take away that time of possession, and just hold on to the ball, because I know there are some times where, if the defense is out there and they've just played 12 plays in a row, even if we score, but we score in 3 plays, it's not great for the boys, because then you guys are right back out there. Like, I remember there were a few times where that happened. We ran to the sideline, you guys are like, thanks, but like, you couldn't have taken an extra few plays to do that.
100%. And you bring up a fantastic point, because going back and looking at all the data from FBS champions to FCS champions to even D2 level, the most interesting thing is the more the game changes, the more it stays the same. There has not been an aired out offense that has won a national title since Eastern Washington incidentally upset Delaware in 2010. Like, there's not these air raids, or even like, I know they peg themselves as a option offense, but really they want to stretch you also. So I think when push comes to shove, it's our offense needs to remain balanced and try to continue to, run the football like we always do, and lean on the run to establish control of the game.
No, for sure.
This is a locker room. I know exactly what you guys are thinking.
Yeah. I think Zach smirked.
B. Will had the smirk first. I'm looking at his camera, and he's just sitting there just
no, dude, I was laughing earlier with Zach.
Family-friendly program. That's why we have the Wild Hair as our sponsor.
Zach goes, yeah. When the DNs lined up when the DNs inside of you, I was like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about?
Can't have that.
Pause. We can edit that out. We can edit that out, even though it's live. So essentially, Zach, what you're saying, maintain the run game and establish your will. Easier said than done, but I hope it happens, because we always want to run the damn ball, man. Tight ends, even though we want to get our love, like, I love just blocking, but maybe that says more about my inability to stretch the field.
No, that's an interesting point too, though, because like once those teams like try going fast and they go 3 and out, and our offense was just out there for 12 minutes, and they just go back out there for another 12 minutes, they don't score. Like, I think the UND game, like my senior year, we started out so fast, and UND really didn't get any plays that first half, and at halftime we were up a lot.
100%. And when you look at the history of the Jacks, the games and seasons we've had the most success, we were able to really just, even though we were quote unquote balanced, we pretty much leaned heavy on the run game, right? Because, you come up against, can they take away one of your receivers? Can they bracket coverage? Can they roll coverage a certain way to kind of throw your quarterback off? If you're getting 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust and they have to tackle that the whole game, the Isaiah Davises of the world, that's going to be interesting, which is why I'm so curious to see, because Lawford can't do it himself. So we really need to have an emerging number 2 back.
Begeman will run that ball hard. I think whenever we were on a scout team, I swear to God, I felt like you hit him and Kirby a few times and you're just like, try hard. Scout team all there. The older guys, those young guys are trying to prove themselves, but like it's good. It's good for everybody, but it's just one of those guys,
Yeah. And shout out to him, because obviously putting his head down, been buried behind a lot of talented backs.
I'll be curious to that same extent. Chase was obviously used more of a Taysom Hill kind of a role last year, where he really didn't throw the ball a lot, but he was in the game a decent amount. How much do, the coaches really want to run him? How much do they want to say, hey, this is more of a specialty thing? Or if they're like, hey, you're a really big dude, we trust that you're going to be durable, we trust, what we got going, run the ball 10 times a game? Or is it going to be only 3rd and 4th downs when you need it? And, is that potentially the second option for the running game? Or is that, kind of the fill in there?
And time is of the essence here, because we have a situation where we have a deep non-conference slate to start in terms of our first 2 games, right? Can't look too far down the road, but we have a loaded, talent-heavy team coming into Brookings, and so much is unknown that we have to really figure it out quickly. And when you look at their offensive talent that they're bringing in to man the Go-Go, we're looking at two different quarterbacks that they have slated as the kind of pair that they're going to roll out there. My take is always if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. But I think this is by design within that Go-Go offense. They have Jaden Rashada, probably one of the athletes with the most hype that's been at the FCS level in some time. Obviously commits to Florida and Miami over big money, ends up not being fulfilled. So he dips out, goes to Arizona State, starts there, has a little bit of a run, and then he ends up going to Georgia, doesn't play a lick. And now he's in Sacramento trying to do his thing, trying to establish himself. So it'll be interesting to see Sacramento, to see if guys are actually, if they want to play for him. I don't know him, not an indictment on his character because it's kind of the era that we're in now. But is that a guy who commands trust? Is that a guy who, is it just based on sheer talent alone? Guys are willing to line up behind him. Who knows? But then they have Cardell Williams, number 7. He is more possibly the runner of the two. The Go-Go offense isn't designed where you need a running quarterback, according to the head coach himself. But Jaden Rashada is obviously more of the probably stretch the field type QB. When you look at their running backs, they're pretty loaded in terms of talent they've been able to recruit and bring in. You got Jamar Curtis, 5'8", 169. He's small, but he's a scat type back. Someone I expect them to try to get out in space, stretch the edges, use every aspect of the field. Really productive career. He's also an FCS Patriot League back, transferring to another university, much like Lawfridge. He's coming from Lafayette out of the Patriot League. He received All-American honors as well. So, I mean, and this is just one season removed from that. He's rushed for damn near 3,000 yards and scored a boatload of touchdowns, almost 40. So he's a good player. Guys are going to have to put a hat on him and make him feel him. Rodney Hammond also is a tinier scat back in terms of height, but he goes 195. He transferred from Pitt after being there 4 straight years and rushed for almost 1,700 yards, 14 TDs. Started for them. So he's played some serious football, and they're going to get a lot of work, right? They got plenty of juice and they can get it going. They also have a guy that's a kick returner who transferred from Nevada on their roster, Savion Reed, who also had good production at the FBS level. So it's going to be fascinating. And then what they're rolling out there at wide receiver, number 3, Jordan Anderson, 5'11", 172. He's an Oregon State transfer. Number 11, Gavin Thomas. He's 6'1", 191, so not a lot of length. But they do have guys who've had receptions. This guy's another FCS transfer from St. Francis. And then Damian McDaniel transferred from UNLV, where he obviously had some run with Coach Marion. But did not have any stats that season that he was there. So there is some rapport with guys they're bringing in. They got a Texas A&M transfer who also ran track. So they're going to try to press the issue. Ernest Campbell, but he didn't have any stats logged either. So a lot of guys probably trying to reinvent themselves underneath this new umbrella of Sacramento State. And then
I think we've seen – oh, my bad.
Real quick, I'll just get to the tight ends, and then I want to weigh in. I want you guys to weigh in. So the tight ends, number 16, Jordan Williams, 6'5", 217. So now they're showing some more length on the offensive side of the ball. And Gavin Nelson, number 87, he's 6'3", 245. Williams was at Colorado State. He didn't really produce much in his lone freshman season. And then Nelson, this is his second season at Sac State. He didn't record any stats last year, but he made 2 starts. So, yeah, we'll see what happens from the skill group there.
I was going to say, this reminds me a lot of that. I think we probably said this last week, but that SIU team that SDSU played maybe I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but yeah, it was very similar. I think they also ran I know they had a 0-nose. I don't know if it was the same exact defense, but it was similar. And then on top of that, they had all these transfers and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of speed where you can out athlete guys. But I think we've seen that with the Jackrabbits plenty of times before in the past. So if you don't got guys that are disciplined, like, and can like hit every single play, like all that stuff's going to be over with by the first quarter. You know what I'm saying? And then you're just going to have to play disciplined football. Like the speed of the game and all that stuff, like that might get you a free touchdown, like off rip, because obviously like we got a lot of new guys and stuff like that. But I mean, after we all settle into the game, it's really going to come down to like who's executing at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know much about their coach, right? And obviously, you know, things have changed a lot up there. They're trying to get a different culture, but I know Coach Jackson, I know Coach Eisness, like I know, you know, Coach Berge and like the guys that we have there, and it's pretty similar to what it has been like for a very long time at South Dakota State. And like I don't see our guys coming out there and not executing every single play. And I believe that, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be like a hater because I know I sound like a hater, but like I just don't believe in them out executing us, right? And like to a point, like it really don't matter if this dude runs a 10-4, you know, 100-yard dash. Like, I don't know.
No, I feel you,
Homer.
Zach can speak to this because he got a chance to catch some of the actual spring ball. The culture seems from the outside in to be pretty intact. I mean, just looking at the pieces that return. What's your take on it overall?
Absolutely. So I actually have my cousin is Lincoln Simchenko, so he's a freshman. So being able to talk with him a little bit, you know, just kind of, you know, getting the vibe from a freshman, and then also, you know, the tight ends that I still know, keep in contact with them. I think a lot of the people who were, you know, not necessarily just in it for the money, but wanted to, you know, head elsewhere after the coaching changes. I think, you know, it was kind of hard to see them leave a little bit to a certain degree because they were, you know, teammates and brothers. But also the guys who stuck around took a lot of pride in saying, no, like I'm staying here. I'm staying at SDSU. Like we are going to, like this place has always been special for a reason. We're going to continue that tradition. Even if we have to bring a bunch of guys in, we are going to teach them what our tradition is about and being able to prove to them and show them, you know, what has made us successful. So I think Jackson's done a great job of continuing that. And I think the guys who have stayed, you know, and have been in the program have also done a great job of letting everyone know what SDSU stands for.
Man, that's encouraging to hear. And I think that's kind of been our intuition, guys that have played there, been around a lot of the coaches that returned. There's a reason they returned, right? Coach Jackson had a pretty good thing going. Isaiah Jackson that I'm referencing here at UC Davis, right? Linebackers coach, beautiful place to live, really, you know, renowned university, but decided to take his talents back to Brookings and man the entire special teams unit. And so he has familiarity also in the Big Sky Conference with Sac State. Of course, it's a different complexion, but still going to be some familiarity there. There's already familiarity with all those pieces that returned with Brookings itself. So there's not a lot of learning curve that needs to take place. And then they could really ingratiate those other coaches, those new players, like you're saying. And that's great to hear. You got a cousin going there. That just speaks volumes to the fact that guys understand what that culture is and they want to be a part of it. That they started to really see when they were young kids, right? Like yourself, you're being from Sioux Falls. Did you see a lot of SDSU games and want to be an SDSU Jack yourself?
Yeah, so one of my buddies growing up, his dad played for the Jacks back with Dana Dykehouse, and so we would always go to the games, and it was back when there was still the single crown behind the away stadium.
Yep.
And so halftime I was running out there and playing and everything, but I'd get up to, you know, 2 or 3 games every year. And it was always something, you know, if I didn't end up, you know, I think I was in 3rd grade and I wrote myself a letter and said, when I'm older, I want to play for, it was Florida or it was, you know, Nebraska or it was SDSU. And it was like, that was always something that I had looked up to as a kid, and, you know, especially when I was there, I took a lot of pride in being someone from South Dakota that, you know, it meant something to me. And I think they're, you know, the players who are there now from South Dakota also exhibit that same mentality a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to see that kind of take off more with guys like Landon, Delaney, and some of these other younger guys that got to see South Dakota State more and start to step into their heyday, right? And then just want to be a part of that because, you know, obviously Stack, Brian, and myself are not from South Dakota, so we don't know what it's like to play for our home state university that's the top dog. So that's got to be a pretty cool feeling. And also another nod to tie it back together why a lot of these coaches are returning. There's something about it. Everybody thinks their place is special, but the proof is kind of in the pudding with South Dakota State, especially given, Brookings is not necessarily a destination that people, go on vacation to or anything like that, like a Florida. So it's encouraging to hear. And then, I want to bring it back to something Stack brought up. When you look at the types of odd fronts that you're going to see, you could see a roster that deploys an odd front like an SIU in that 22 kind of era, or you could see a roster that's rich with talent like Missouri State, but doesn't necessarily execute at the same clip, right? And now you went off against Missouri State in 22. There were some seam shots and there were some good opportunities for tight ends. When you look at SIU, they did do a better job of walking up those lanky backers, right? And forcing the issue and really shutting down the run to some degree. So it'll be interesting to see what version of that 3-4 Sac State runs out.
And I will say, when you had mentioned Missouri State, the one thing about, yes, they're bringing in all these transfers, and that's great. But kind of like we had mentioned with SDSU's culture, as soon as Missouri State was 5th in the country that year, and it was the biggest game that they had ever played in Springfield, and it was, it was Parents Weekend, it was everything, it was great. We beat them, and their season just crumbled because they were individuals who were stuck together wearing the same jerseys. Like they weren't in it together.
Yeah, talk that talk, Zach. What?
That's right. No, he's just picking up right where Matt Zimmer left off, because that's exactly kind of the sentiment. It's like, are they going to be this team that was sold a false bill of goods and it's just a group of individuals, or are they actually going to mesh collectively? Now, like we're not some haters that just wish for the downfall of every university, but I think it's just worth mentioning. It's worth mentioning that, like, even if you have aspirations of bigger things, your whole university probably doesn't need to write checks that your team then has to cash, right? So it's like, maybe just pump the brakes and don't insult an entire subdivision.
Especially when you haven't won a national championship or been to Frisco or, ever been to the semifinals. Like that. Like that's just kind of crazy to me. Like for them to say that, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what Chris Brown say. So I don't see how you can't even get in. What are you talking about?
Right. That's definitely Zach's favorite artist, Chris Brown. I can tell.
Time.
Well, yeah. Well, Zach said he wants to go to Florida. Zach said he wanted to go to Florida. I don't know how you would have fared out there.
Heavy sunscreen. That's what it would have been. Heavy sunscreen.
A lot of sunscreen.
So before we dive into everybody's favorite topic, special teams, at least it's mine for sure. What are you up to these days, Zach? Are you still pursuing the NFL?
Yeah, so still training. Still, kind of, it's a lot of movement right now within the NFL. So, still staying ready there. And then also just, kind of starting to prepare for life after football too. And, getting everything like that lined up. So kind of it's a little bit of an on time just because you're in a space where, I'm not on a team right now, but, I still want to be on a team, but, you also can't just live in this land of gray forever. And so that's just trying to navigate that. I know I've talked to, some of the other guys who are in a little bit of the same space and just trying to, bounce ideas off each other just about kind of how to go about that. And, but yeah, so that's a little bit of, what I've been up to. And then just excited to also still be here and be able to see the Jacks and, get to a lot of games this fall.
That's awesome. Well, best of luck with however that pans out. Obviously, it's a tight window, even for the best of the cream of the crop in the collegiate ranks. So we'll see what happens. We'll be pulling for you in terms of setting yourself up for other things. No harm, no foul in that. Just talk to Zach Zenner. Our episodes will release. It's called the Level Up segment with Zach Zenner, sponsored by Be Well, and we discuss a lot of these topics of how to prepare not only for the NFL shot, but how to navigate transitions to different opportunities in life. So I wish you the best with all that. When we look at special teams, did you ever play on special teams, Zach?
I was a backup long snapper. That was my claim to fame.
Oh, me too. And it was terrifying, and I hated it, but also it was great.
Yeah, but other than that, they didn't want the 6'7" tight end running down on kickoff too often, so that wasn't my area of expertise.
Yeah, I gotta share this because you never talk about long snapping ever, but I was absolutely mortified having a snap at Memorial Stadium against Nebraska on field goal when the game was like 6-3 for most of the game. Like that was not a place I wanted to be in as a guy who's mainly a tight end D lineman recruit, like having to do that. That was nuts. Shout out to the evolution of the Jax program for now just allocating a spot for purely long snappers now. Much appreciated on that front. Yeah, man. And it was like, just to put a cap on that, I had the worst damn long snap stance too, like way too spread, just to make sure the ball stayed down. You know what I mean? Not rising up with the hips. Terrifying. But yeah, when we look at the special teams unit, you mentioned a couple guys, Zach, that I'm intrigued to see in terms of the return game. Delaney could certainly get a shot back there, I would imagine, at KOR. Obviously has competence catching the ball and securing it. So I would think they would want to get him a shot and see what he can do, get him exposed to some collegiate game action at full speed and see what happens. Obviously, Angel departing to Washington State. We don't have him to return kicks. I think Kirby kind of shouldered that second return option. So it'll be fascinating to see who they put out there, who wants to step up. Quinn Renfro, he might be an option. Basinger, maybe they give him some run. I'm not sure what the redshirt situation looks like, but I know the rules changed to be more favorable for the young guys.
It'll be interesting to see what they want to do with those, freshmen, because if they are indeed going to pull the red shirts, they either should be playing a lot on offense or, they're going to be that third receiver who, is in some of the times, but then is heavy on special teams. It's not – these coaches realize they don't just want to burn a year of eligibility just to have them out there for 5 plays a game. So it'll be interesting to see how they try and thread that needle of deciding, okay, for sure that his red shirt's pulled, he's too good, and deciding how many guys to do that with, how many guys to wait, and always playing that game of, cat and mouse with the 4 games, and then in the playoffs it's all fair game. So
it's usually like less than 1% of the entire roster, right? Like you're going to see maybe 1 to 2 guys that have that at least physical capability to get it pulled and then actually can produce enough to get it pulled, like your Wildes, like your Ogroskis. So we're batting one a year on the wide receiver front. So it'll be fascinating, and roughly one the last couple of years on the RB front. So, and that's with deep rooms. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens. And also, will we even need to? We got Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, who's a guy who can create for himself. If you flip on his highlights, I would not be shocked to see him back there returning kicks. From a punt perspective, punt return, I'm not sure who they're going to throw back there. That always gives me heart palpitations, because even when you got guys who are super legit with the balls in their hands, like Jaden and Jackson, stuff can go awry, right? Like catching it, getting upfield, not fumbling can be tough.
Absolutely. And trying to catch a ball that goes sky high, love Dana J, love all the stadiums out there, but occasionally you will catch the sun just wrong. And I know I talked to Jaden a few times where it's like, we were punt returning one way, like in a certain game. He's like, I didn't have a chance. I just ran away. Like there was literally nothing he could do. It was like, you're just staring up there and you're just hoping. So yeah, it wasn't my favorite play, put it that way. Got a little nervous for it.
For sure. And when you look at the fact that it's going to be a night game, but the sun is obviously starting to go down towards that time. So at what point in the game does that become a factor? Is it one at all? So it still can be a play in there. And then obviously our kickoff units, we had a lot of yips last year from Dustman. As good as he was shouldering all 3, we would kick the ball out of bounds at inopportune moments. And so I just hope, I know we got a guy from Northwestern University out of Northwest Iowa. So I think, he's played a ton of ball, played a ton of meaningful ball. He's good on field goal. I don't know if he's going to shoulder the kickoff responsibilities, but it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shapes up. And then obviously on coverage units, we got a lot of depth, I would say, in terms of guys who have played some sparing time. You got Bryce Johnsons of the world. They're going to be pivotal, I think, in a lot of those units. The linebackers and tight ends kind of make up a lot of those teams. So I think it'll be cool to see them get some play and take pride in that stuff. I always like to watch Gromley, another tight end. I don't know if you played with him, Zach. I know you played with him, Brian, but he would haul ass downfield and really try to make hay on that unit.
Yeah, no, Brody might have been one of the most athletic people to ever be 6'7". And he was 6'7" and top 5 fastest people on the team. And we just told him on kickoff, said, hey, ball's going to be down there, sprint. And he took it very literally.
There you go. Everybody needs a few of them.
One time he clotheslined one of them guys. I'll never forget that. Rogers ate that shit up, dude. I'm talking about on the pointer Sunday meeting.
Yeah.
Right here, boys.
I love it. That's great. So yeah, we're going to need a lot of that. And then one unit before we dip out here, we're winding down, but we got to talk about the DBs, man. The DBs, I think that's a very, I would say, under talked about unit so far this offseason. But being that Coach Jackson has that in his lineage as a coach, obviously coaching DBs down at Vanderbilt, coached DBs at South Dakota State, among all the different hats that he wore. But really, that's kind of his forte. And then you got Berge coming back, who's good with the safeties. And we got Kobe Bretz, who's coming in from Nebraska. We have Jalen, who's moving to safety. Obviously, having
Sean back there coaching these guys is all I needed to hear, and I was sold.
Hey, if we can get Daishawn teaching them how to come up and run fits, absolutely, man, because that was a huge value add. If they can stick their heads in there and set that edge and make sure that nothing spills outside, that's phenomenal. So, and we got the length to do it. Jaden Oliver coming in from Buffalo. If anybody watched the Buffalo Gophers game last night, that defense can play now. And he played for Buffalo. So he's coming in, got a ton of length. I've heard his movement skills and his kind of how he carries himself as an athlete, similar to Randy Moss, the stride, the length, stuff like that. So anytime you're getting kind of thrown in that bucket, obviously a different side of the ball, but pretty interesting to see how that'll shape up. And then you got obviously Aiden Dodderman, who's played some meaningful reps as well. It'll be interesting to see how he steps up. And we got, a lot of options there, a lot of options. Who are you guys looking to keep an eye on Saturday?
In the DB room?
DB room.
Yeah, I'd say Jay Lee. Just from the one practice I went to in March, I just enjoyed the enthusiasm he played with. I said it last week, but I'm gonna keep saying it. If he plays like that during the year, he's gonna be a fun guy to watch. So right. And kind of to see him kind of grow up through the program, always have a good attitude, and a guy that relished running down on special teams and blowing people up. Now you get your shot to really play. I'm excited to see what he does with it.
Agreed.
6'4" is a big DB.
It is.
I'm excited to see that. So
right.
I wonder if he'll stay one side of the field or travel with the best.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how big of an impact that is.
100%.
Yeah, from an offensive perspective, if you do have a DB like that can just shut someone down, it's all right, what are we going to do now? And, I always felt and you guys can attest to this more than I can, but for our defense, and it changes with different people coming in, but a lot of times we stuck our corners out there on islands and essentially just said, hey, you guys are going to be out there. You guys are going to figure that out. You guys are going to be playing man coverage. We'll get home to the quarterback. We'll send you guys at the quarterback and get there fast enough so they can't do anything. So, from my perspective, just getting that, good coverage there and locking that down in the corner is going to be an interesting position to watch.
Yeah. And that will just be really nagging for wide receivers, right? They can't get a lot of separation or they're delayed off the ball. And look at the contrast that we already laid out for you guys. They're going at 5'11", 6'1". We're lining guys up that are 6'3", 6'1", 6 foot. It's Missouri Valley football. So it'll be, something's got to give.
Not only that, but Dante Johnson.
Yeah.
Transformed himself.
Yep.
I'm saying that shit are odd. Sorry.
Yeah. We're family friendly.
That shit's impressive.
It is.
Go do it.
Well, and Miles, right? We didn't talk about Miles, but he's got a lot of reps, a lot of key experience that's going to be very valuable to the unit as they're communicating across the board, different defenses, right? Different coverages. Are we traveling? What are we doing on one side of the field versus the other? What's it look like for the safeties? And then Kobe Brett's, again, having that experience and just his sheer athleticism. The dude was like a national champion diver. If you saw that video go viral, like, is insane, man. Somebody who can move like that in general. I like our odds. If he can play a little football, we're golden.
Heins could do that shit too. So
I could not do that. I do not want to try either.
Tucker did that. He did like 2 flips off a diving board.
Oh yeah, he called it a kip up or something, where he's laying on the ground and he doesn't use his hands and he just pops himself up. And I'm just like,
that too.
Yeah,
he did that in the league on prime time. So yeah,
he knew what he was doing. Yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, he knew exactly. Shout out to him. We're still waiting on Zach's sponsorship, but Tucker finally got his Kraft Heins company sponsorship. So
it only took 1,200 days or whatever of him trying.
Yeah, that's right. 1,200 days. They were sleeping on you guys because they went woke and they did rebranding and they stopped sponsoring Steelers Stadium. So we won't hold it against them now since they're paying him. But get Zach his money. Damn it. Yeah. If he's not in the league, he'll be the best finance bro out there, right? So that's still sauce.
It's a win-win.
Right,
it's a win-win.
Right. Well, we got to talk about the LBs last, but certainly not least. Really intriguing to see what happens with this group because we've had such a rich history. It seems like we keep saying that about every group, but shout out to the guys who've been there. It's been fun to watch them, both tight ends, running backs, and LBs. I think that's kind of been the cream of the crop. D-line is making a push, hopefully, this year. But when you look at the linebackers, we've had, Christian Roseboom, Preston Tetzloff's been great. Logan Backus. We've had Bach. You can't sleep on him. Stalbert in the league right now doing big things. Friend of the pod on last week. Go check out that episode. But we got new blood now, right? We got Chase Van Tol, who seems like a psychopath. He's a hitter. We have Cullen McShane. He's a freak athlete. He's doing backflips himself, throwing the ball 70 yards. And shout out to him for anchoring in, staying at state when he had an opportunity. I think his name went in the portal a couple times. So he decided to burn the ships, as we like to say at South Dakota State. And then, obviously we got Joe Ullman, who's really been kind of a dark horse leader, who's been named a captain. He was a walk-on to starter to captain. That's pretty salty. So what do we like out of this group, gentlemen?
I mean, Ullman obviously looks like an absolute freak. I like the entire attitude that they have. It's funny to laugh at when they're like, dude, I feel like this is the best group we've had in a long time, right? That's funny to us because you're thinking well, what about Roseboom and Backus and Bach and these guys? But I mean, to have that confidence and mean it, as a dude, that's what you're supposed to say, right? If they didn't feel like that, I would be kind of worried, you know what I mean? So I think just kind of having that attitude and setting the tone for the defense that way. I think Cullen McShane is he's also nuts. So I'm excited to see kind of when you get this group of young guys who are hungry and ready for this opportunity, how they're gonna take it. I'm excited to see what they have for us this year for sure.
Yeah, sometimes when you don't know any better, it's that's when stuff goes, right? You can make it work because you're just playing with that reckless abandon, and it sounds like these guys aren't shy about doing that. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Do we have, before we dip out here, do we have any predictions? It's all speculation anyway.
Before we do the predictions, though, we talk about rich history at every spot on the field. No one deserves a shout out more than Coach Stig himself for setting the foundation for everybody.
Amen.
Because everything has been up from there. So shout out to Coach Stig, the GOAT.
One of one.
Great
GOAT.
Yeah. And shout out to Coach Stig for being honored in the South Dakota State Hall of Fame. Not just SDSU Hall of Fame, but the state of South Dakota. Huge honor. I don't think any of us are surprised, but there was a time and point there when I first transferred in that 7-4 people were getting a little bit tired of. Big transition to the FCS level Division I athletics. There was a contingent of people. I didn't know anything really about South Dakota State. I transferred because I had a relationship with the position coach, but there were people I would hear, talking trash about Coach Stig or maybe doubting. And he just went to work and he evolved and he surrounded himself with really good teachers of the game. I don't think there's any better teacher in general about life and just different things than Coach Stig. So it's turned into a Coach Stig love fest, but deservedly so.
Absolutely. I would say, those people who have anything bad to say about Coach Stig have never actually met Coach Stig. If you meet him, you will have nothing bad to say.
Yep.
Like one of one person.
100%. 100%.
Hold on. There's people that have bad stuff to say. Man, hey, whoever would have something bad to say about Coach Stig, we are jumping them. I need their address. Like, bro, what? Who are these people? Show me them.
Point of order here. It was just simply about, was he the right guy to steer us into D1? That's all they were saying. Like, I never heard someone say anything bad about Coach Stig personally. So just to set the record.
Real quick though, Kyle, when you were in the transfer process, did they tell you that we were going to go Division I?
We were already Division I in the transition process.
Oh, okay. So you were like basically promised to, go to the FCS and
we actually went FC. We didn't
tell people we were going
and then we actually built a stadium, and then we actually got $100 million plus in funds, not 25, $100 million plus in funds. And then we actually wait, hold on, just a point of clarification that actually happened. And then we actually made the playoffs early, and then we went on a string of 14 years in the playoffs. And then we went on a string to back national championships, 3 national championship appearances in 4 years. And our conference is the only one that wins national championships, just to put that out there. Yeah.
Food for thought for my sons in Sacramento. Food for thought for you guys.
Just so they know. I mean, proof is in the pudding. We're not stating anything that's not fact. So, gentlemen, that's a phenomenal place to wrap it up. Predictions, I think just dubs around, right? Dubs?
For sure.
Big dub.
Just real quick, I believe, I don't know, bald-headed midget, big fisherman guy, he was in my DMs earlier talking about 31-27 Sac State. That's a big fish.
A bald-headed fisherman. Oh, I know this guy.
Bro, he's the same guy that was saying SIU was going to beat us, I think in 22. Yeah, dude, they just have the athletes, bro. I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's right. That's right. He loves to fish. He's a real gone fishing kind of guy.
Yeah, deep sea, I believe. He's really out there.
Yeah,
he's in deep waters. That's for sure.
Not too deep though.
He's kind of short.
Yeah.
Shout out
deep
to
for him is
Stone.
like 2 feet.
Kiddie pool waters. We love you, Stone, but sometimes you're just off your rocker. It's all good. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for hopping on the pod and carving out some time. Thank you to everybody who listened and weighed in. We got some diehards on here. It's always nice to hear from you guys. We hope you guys get out to the game, turn up, be loud on third down, quiet when we're on offense. Continue to put that on repeat, right? I want to shout out our sponsor one last time, the Wild Hair of Brookings, South Dakota. Appreciate your support. Get there pre and post game, turn up. Remember to be responsibly wild. And with that, go big, go blue, go Jack.
Go Jacks.